Tell us when you were in the Ballet Russe. What years?
I believe it was 44, 45, somewhere in there. It's hard to remember actual dates, you know.
Right,
I just remember events.
And a season is over 2 years,
Right,
over,
yeah,
you know,
right.
like 44, 45. So,
Right.
because I know the Ballet Russe had a season from, let's say, the fall to the spring.
Yeah,
so
and then
it was
we...
always 2-year dates.
Right.
So it's hard to remember.
Yeah, it is.
And did you get this role quite early on?
Yes, I think Lazowski left the company, and then Mr. B asked me to do it. So it was, for me, it was an honor, you know, to actually work with him in a studio, just he and I, and
was
so
that
forth.
probably the first time you ever did that with
Absolutely
him?
the first time.
Yeah.
You know, as a student, I used to see him in the halls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
And so you said he just sort of took you aside one day and said,
yes, let's do it. So,
right. No preparation.
No preparation,
announcements.
nothing.
Right.
He just, and then he had the pianist play, and then he'd show me a step, and he'd say, do it, and you know, that sort of thing.
And he, of course, demonstrated everything.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I'm sure way down.
And yes,
yeah.
yes. And the things that he would mark sometimes, he would explain, you know, what he meant to do.
Well, some of the things you just said about
Yeah.
falling off
Yes,
and
exactly.
recovering were very interesting.
Yeah, because then once you get into this, the gigue itself, it's not just a dance, then you become a character.
Right.
Because you start falling, you recover, you suddenly you decide that you are a nobleman, and so don't make a fool of me because I'm falling, and then suddenly you start falling again, you know.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. So.
Yes. What was Mr. B's reputation to you or to the world in general in 1945?
Well, you know, he wasn't that well known, you know. In fact, he'd ride the subway in New York, and no one would recognize him or anything like that. But his reputation mainly was the fact that he did On Your Toes and things like that, you know.
Sure.
But it wasn't until later on.
You were a student at the school, so you knew of him, and you knew.
Oh yes.
And you knew you wanted to be with him.
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, the first time he asked me to do something was when he did Merry Widow.
Oh, you were in Merry Widow?
With Martha Eggert and Jan Kipura and so forth.
Yeah.
So I was in that. And then after that, he asked me to join the company.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And it was right shortly after that he asked me to do the gigue in Mozartiana.
And did you specialize in this kind of character part?
Well, yes, because I enjoyed, Mr. Obuhoff used to teach character class.
Yes, even I was in some of those classes.
And Bea Tompkins and I were partners all the time,
really?
see.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, we used to have a lot of fun in character class. So I really enjoyed that more than classical dancing.
Yeah.
Of course, classical dancing was what we had to learn, you know.
Basics, naturally,
and so forth. So actually, he would say, you are a demi-character. Now, I don't know whether he meant that as a compliment or not. But
Character dance is more or less lost these days. I mean, occasionally it's
it
back,
is.
pulled in from the 19th century, but when I was studying, that was part of the curriculum.
Oh, absolutely.
And of course, it's part of the repertory, the Ballet Russe repertory.
Oh, yes, because we had, you know, we had not only Mr. Buho, but then we had Theodore Bakefi would come in and teach
really? I didn't know
character class then also.
And then, so you left around 49, maybe, to join New York City Ballet, something
Yeah,
like that?
I went to Sweden, and then when I came back from Sweden, he asked me to join New York City Ballet.
I see.
So,
and what,
then
I remember you in Filling Station, I said that, but what other, I mean, I suppose you danced everything.
yes,
Or did you
I
have a
was
specialty?
swing boy.
Yeah, right.
You know, I went on for Michael Mall, I went on for Frank Hobie and Jeu de Cartes, I went on
I see.
Miraculous Mandarin I did for Michael Mall and so forth. And as far as roles are concerned, you know, I never knew what I was going to be doing that night, you know.
Utility infielding.
You know, we would sort of look at the board and say, oh, I'm in
this tonight, you're right.
Yeah.
That's the way it was in the early days,
Yeah,
right? Not enough people, really.
Exactly. So you did almost everything. I remember, you know, I opened the program and I did the Adagio and Concerto Barocco, and then I was a rock and Orpheus.
Oh, yes. Well,
So, I mean, you know, you did everything.
yes, indeed. Well, thank you very much.
Thank
This
you.
is terrific, and you're the only living person who could have brought this back, you know.
Really?
Freddie, I think everybody who's interested in Balanchine's development is very interested in Mozartiana because it may well, we'll never be sure perhaps, but may well be his first substantive plotless choreography. And we do know that he did it more or less under his own steam. In other words, he wasn't working for Diaghilev or anyone else. He was kind of his own man. So I think there's a great curiosity about the original version, the 1933 version. And you've told me that by great coincidence you were actually at one of those performances. So what do you recall that would be relevant to the 1945 that you've just staged?
Well, you know, certainly I was a very young dancer at the time, and I had seen a lot of Myrcine. And looking at Mr. Balanchine's work, I found it so very different. His sort of approach to the classical ballet was very different, and also the actual movements were something that I'd never, you see, I never saw any of the Diaghilev things that he did. So I had no point of reference. The only thing was, when I did see it, I thought, well, this choreography is a very different from what I've ever seen. I think you're right. It could possibly have been the first plotless ballet. And now that we've done this in 1940, I had flashes, and I remember, for instance, the toys and things, and there was Roman Yasinski. And certainly, how it came out as far as Danilova was concerned, with Danilova had, what can I say, a chic.
Yes.
That Tamara, who was she was a 14-year-old dancer. So the choreography has taken on a completely different style from the way she did it. What has happened with the man, it's more or less the same. Mm-hmm. And I spoke, when I used to talk to Roman about it, Roman Yasinski, Yasha, and I showed him what we did. And he said, you know, it's almost the same. Now, he was the original. So it is very similar. Maybe, I am sure, a couple of things for sure, with her lovely things and stuff. But otherwise, it was all done when we did it in 1944. So, and that obviously came from what it was. Yeah. That was when, you know, when we started to rehearse Mozartiana. Shura and I had no idea. She'd never seen it, and I had an idea. So Shura said, no, Frederic, what is it about? I said, we're going to be just dancing and beautiful. She said, you mean there's nothing? I said, no. And she was quite overwhelmed about it, but it was Balanchine, and you know, after all, she had appeared in his ballets in Diaghilev.
There's so many echoes of his future choreography.
Right.
Direct quotations, for one thing, as you mentioned, Serenade, and there's that ending, which is like the Adagio of Symphony in C.
Symphony in C.
And I had a really interesting story. I interviewed one of the 1933 girls, Tamara Chinarova, and she said, you know, you'll never really get the full ballet back because he changed his mind every day, and it kept being different, which is very unusual. Most people say, oh, once he did it, he knew. But obviously in 1933, he was just beginning to work on the vocabulary. Now, was Jasinski at all present in any of the rehearsals with the Ballet Russe?
No.
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 You compared notes sort of afterward?
When I was down there putting stuff on for their company. But no, not at all.
And was any reference ever made to Tumanova or Jasinski when Balanchine said it?
Balanchine had sort of, I think it wasn't a very happy time. I think it was his first company.
Sure, and it folded.
And it
practically instantly. Yes.
It was 2 weeks or 3 weeks old, and it finished.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was and certainly with Tilly Losh and Edward James and all that was going on.
Right, yes. I thought I'd just show a picture of the scenery here.
Yes, that's it.
That's it, yeah.
Yes.
This is the Bérard design.
The Bérard,
yeah.
now.
What's interesting to me is here's another sketch of the costume, the ballerina's costume, and it's a short skirt, and this one it's a long skirt.
A long
so
one.
They hadn't really...
This was the one.
Yeah, this is what she eventually
had. And then, of course, again, we can tell the story. Danilova never liked to appear in black
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yes, because she was aging a little, and she said, no, it's not good for me. So he said, fine, we'll put you in a white tutu for the first bit, and then it wasn't black.
Oh.
It was a dark purpley
Yeah.
quasi, but it was not jet black at all.
Well, you know, the present Mozartiana, the ballerina, doesn't wear true black.
No, it's not black.
And Suzanne actually told me, I believe, that he fussed tremendously with her costume because it was so-called the wrong black. Now tell me something, we certainly saw a terrific demonstration of Balanchine's musicality and his being able to play in and out of the musical beat with all these unusual counts. Now, when he rehearsed it, did he count?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes,
Because
he
otherwise
did.
it would be impossible for most people to get it.
And he'd sniff 1, 2, you know, oh, yes, oh.
Because those fives, I mean, unless, of course, you did it today, but without really insisting on
No.
it, it's hard to get those accents.
Well, and the thing was, well, I think as far as I was concerned, he trusted me musically.
Well, you're a very musical
did.
person, but not everybody is.
No, and when he gave me those funny things, but afterwards, when I had to rehearse it, I had to know it, you know,
Sure.
and had to know it properly so it would come out the way he rehearsed it. I was introduced to Mr. B. Remember, I had already done Serenade, but I'd already done Jeu de Cartes with Mr. Stravinsky's music. So I was a little bit used to his method of this and that and 2 of those and 4 of those and cut that in 3. And, you know, I was a little bit used to this, certainly, it was, as far as he was concerned.
Right.
So it wasn't too much. And yet, sure, I had difficulty.
I should think so.
She had difficulty with this crossover step. No, she said, no, I'm not on the music. She said, I said, yes, you are, sure, keep going.
What do you think was, for your part and your partnering and all that, the biggest challenge of the ballet?
Well, what I showed today, we'd never seen anything like this, those things like this, you know, in and out.
Oh, yes.
And I said, sure, but then it was marvelous with her. We used to, she'd say, well, now, we'd do it, and the rehearsal would finish, and then she'd say, now, Frederic, we go look in mirror, see how we look. And we went in front of her, and we just stopped, and I'd push, and she'd say, no, a bit more, and push this way, and we had to.
Yeah.
You know, because when we were rehearsing in theatres, we never saw these mirrors.
Right.
We weren't in studios to rehearse. So we never really looked what we were like until we got into a studio, and then we did, with everything we danced, we did that. But it's, you see, the wonderful syncopation, all of these things in this ballet, oh, for him, and for her, it's marvelous. And just the kind of when I was that lovely age, I loved all that kind of stuff and
Yes.
really got
Well,
into
a
it.
new challenge, to say the least.
Yes.
Now, about how long was the ballet danced by the Ballet Russe?
Oh, 3 or 4 seasons. It went, you know, it was a wonderful opening ballet.
Yes.
That's where its place was, and then there was a middle, and then there was, you know, Gaîté or Danube at the end. Oh no, we toured we got a lot of mileage out of it, indeed, a lot. So, you know, it was, and on top of that, we all loved doing it.
Yes.
So there we are.
Yes. Yes, indeed. But unfortunately, it was completely lost.
Yes.
Now, well, let's just mention one thing. The ballerina solo that is still more or less lost. We've
elusive.
tried, right? Because we asked
We had-
Krasovska
yes.
about it, and we've showed it to several old Ballet Russe dancers. We've really done some archaeological work here, and
Right.
as yet, it has resisted.
Resisted.
Thanks to you, we now have at least an
Oh,
idea
that's
of those
something
pas de
back,
deux, and they
yes.
really are gorgeous.
Well, yes, they really are.